Good morning. My name is Aaliyah Guillory Nickens. I'm the Youth Huddle representative. Before I start, I want to give a few updates on what we did, both a few actions that we participated in for the last few days. So, last Saturday we called for a prayer vigil after against the violence where the two officers were shot and killed, as well as the shooters. Clergy members, community members, and community organizations joined and stood with us. Thank you for everyone that came out and joined us as well. Yesterday, we joined Reverend Dr. Travis Boyd for the healing experience at Canaan Baptist Church, which was a success, and it was a very beautiful experience. There has been an uptick in crime, so now I want to talk about the criminal and juvenile justice system. We will not be able to arrest our way to safety. We continue to use the same methods and get the same results, which means we need a new approach. Adding more police in our streets and throwing everybody in jail will not stop crime. We've seen that. And to think that putting people, our people, in a system rooted on slavery to stop crime is backwards. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery except for as punishment for a crime. Then came our prison system, and not a surprise, Black people filled them up. The only thing we did was move from cotton fields to barbed wires and metal bars. Being hard on crime isn't a solution to the problem. 1970s war on drugs era, where Black people filled the jails up for crack offenses, that didn't stop people from abusing drugs. We could go to 125th and Lex and see that right now. It's time we think of an effective approach to make our city safer. A restorative approach where we look at the root causes of crime, which is mental illness, mental health, poverty, homelessness, and lack of resources. We need to replace punish with rehabilitate and start making sure we are having conversations with community members who live in the communities where it's not safe, and making sure we include young people, even the ones committing the crimes. There have been many misconceptions on raise the age, a law that I helped fight to get passed and a law that helped me and saved my future. If it wasn't for raise the age, I probably wouldn't have gotten a chance to be a part of Huddle or even be speaking right now. So we need to help protect it. I'm not going to read all the things that aren't true because people say anything without educating themselves, which is a problem for a different day. But some of the misconceptions are raise the age increased the violence that's been going on. That's not true. 18 months after raise the age was passed, the violence decreased. When COVID hit, the violence and the crime went back up, but that was after COVID. That wasn't because of raise the age. It was because COVID hit and people started acting reckless. Another misconception is 16 and 17-year-olds in family court get a slap on the wrist. That's not the case as well. 16 and 17-year-olds, when they're sent to family court, the only thing that they get is a program. They'll get a program. It's a more restorative approach. So instead of getting jail time, they'll either get a program, they'll get probation, they'll just have to check in. They won't get 5 years, 6, 7 years in jail. And if it's a felony or a violent offense, then they will get time in jail. It just won't be a lot of time. Another misconception is that teens caught with guns are sent to family court. That's not true as well. If a 16 and 17-year-old gets caught with a gun, they're sent to criminal court automatically and they're being charged as an adult. But the judge is able to look at the teen's record and see if they want to keep them in criminal court. So if they have a criminal history and if it's a violent offense, they could keep them in adult court. But if they don't, they could send them to family court, and the prosecutor can argue why they should stay in adult court if needed. Another misconception is more severe adult criminal penalties will decrease violence. Penalizing young people for the mistakes that they made isn't going to cure violence. It isn't going to help crime. It's not going to decrease crime. Having conversations and figuring out real solutions will. Gun violence is a real issue we face in our streets. Brooklyn, 2020, the summer of 2020, a 1-year-old was shot. The other day, an 11-month-old was shot. 15 and 16-year-olds are shot. Last Friday, we lost 2 cops to an act of senseless violence. So this is something that we've been seeing in our communities. We can't slap a Band-Aid on it and add more cops and try to fix it for the meantime. We need to cure it. Yes, the first thing we say is to add more resources and fund cure violence groups, but we need to go back to the basics first. Having real conversations in and with our communities, restoring love, learning the importance of accountability, and giving more real opportunities to the youth, also having hope in them. Every corner there's a church, and in between the church and the corner there's guns, gangs, drugs, starving children, struggling mothers, and lost teens. As a collective, we need to come together and figure out what's not working. Young people, we need to start holding ourselves accountable before anyone else can hold us accountable. Your friends out here moving wrong, check them. Back then, gang members weren't able to shoot at rivals with their children or lady. Nowadays, they're hitting both kids and women. Bring back principle. Respect your elders. Listen to your parents. Parents, be more present. Growing up, my dad was always in my business, but now I understand why. Don't rely on these school systems to teach your children what they need to know starts at home. Elected officials, when we put you in office, we put you in office to do the right thing, so get it done or don't get too comfortable. We have young people who utilize youth programs and resources and are now in college. Why are they struggling? Provide scholarships, increase funding for programs such as TAP and Excelsius, increase funding for state-operated schools. For the ones that are not in college, make it easier to get paid internships, paid apprenticeships. Filling the streets up with cops and adding task force won't stop violence. Creating real solutions will. Gangs are a manipulation process of human development. As humans, we are social beings, so young men growing up in the same neighborhood will form an alliance. That's natural. Add a music program, a sports program, an arts program, boxing programs, fashion programs for those young men so they won't have to stay in the streets looking for something to get into. I am a Meek fan. I love Meek Mill, but Meek and Jay, you are both on executive level. So when it comes to these record labels, make some real executive change. I enjoy rap music, but there's no reason the only thing rappers are rapping about is killing each other. Behind the scenes, these labels want more dissing. It's easier to get famous as a rapper if you're disrespectful and diss people in your raps. These labels want that. Dissing elevates beef, beef elevates death, death elevates crime, crime elevates convictions. Convictions are what's filling up the prisons. And as long as the prisons are filled up, the money is flowing, economy is booming. We live in a capitalistic society. Everything revolves around money. So when will we play our cards right? Black artists in the industry with power change the narrative. Come to the hood, find real talent, and get them out. Make real change. Activists and community organizations. It's easy to go outside, scream, chant, hold posters. I've did it before. It's easy to post a hashtag. It's easy to come outside for a photo op. But if you're not in these communities with the people being impacted, if you're not including the ones actually doing the shootings, reevaluate what you're doing and who you're really doing it for. Last Saturday, when the cameras were out and we were on 135th, I seen a lot of people. Monday came and I didn't see half of those people in here. Everyone in here, I know you know a young person, you have a daughter, a son, a grandson, a granddaughter, a niece or a nephew. Bring them on Mondays to huddle. It should start looking like how it looks every Saturday for rally when Rev is speaking. It will take a village to cure violence, not over policing. Thank you. Join us every Mondays at Huddle Monday on 145th Street in Venice. Thank you.
All right, the Nan Youth Huddle, once again, every Monday, 6 p.m. right here at the House of Justice. Right now, brothers and sisters, so much in life is needed, particularly for those that need a second chance. And Sandra Mitchell is here today to talk to us about the Second Chance Committee.
Thank you, Attorney Hardy, and good morning to Nan family. My name is Chaplain Sandra Mitchell, and Chaplain Victor Pate from the Second Chance Committee could not be here this morning, and he asked me to read his presentation on his behalf. It is an honor to speak about the Second Chance Committee. Victor Pate, who is our chairman, he's a formerly incarcerated person. He joined the National Action Network in 2008. And he joined it after attending a Saturday morning rally, just like this one, as well as an orientation session for new members. After hearing about the various committees that were there at the time, he noticed that there was no committee to address the needs of formerly incarcerated persons. The Second Chance Committee was formulated in 2009 by Victor Pate, Dennis Levy, and his wife, Mary Arnold. These were formerly incarcerated individuals, and the Second Chance Committee was created for the purpose of assisting formerly incarcerated persons and their families as they navigate the re-entry process from prisons and jails, as well as to provide support for the families of those incarcerated. The Second Chance Committee is partnered and works with criminal justice reform organizations working and advocating for change in our criminal justice system. He also works with regulations and policies to change them related to the conditions of confinement in our prisons and jails for all populations of individuals. The goals and purpose of the Second Chance Committee reflects the overall mission of the National Action Network's function as a civil rights organization that fights and advocates for systemic change that is humane, fair, and just for all people. This includes our fellow human beings that are incarcerated. The Second Chance Committee has been engaged in multiple advocacy rallies, and forums, town halls, and community education events throughout the years. To this end, I bring to you the resume of the Second Chance Committee. In January 2022, participated in 3 virtual advocacy days for parole justice, ending qualified immunity and treatment, not jails, all of which currently have legislative bills pending in the New York State Legislature. Second Chance Committee conducted virtual Second Chance Committee meetings where we talk about rallies at City Hall, and we go to protest the treatment and neglect of people incarcerated on Rikers Island. December 2021, participated in virtual City Council hearings to discuss the conditions on Rikers Island and the continued use of solitary confinement. November 2021, the Second Chance participated in weekly crisis committee calls, and our Victor Pate and his team answer the cries for people who are in crisis, both incarcerated and those who are now released. October 2021, the Second Chance Committee participated in voter registration and education for the incarcerated on Rikers Island. The Second Chance Committee goes to Rikers Island and makes sure that people know you can vote. And they have gone there with our crisis director, Derek Perkins. September 2021, the Second Chance Committee participated in virtual meetings with the New York City Board of Corrections to discuss the proposed regulations governing the use of solitary confinement in New York City jails. And we go on to June 2021, the Second Chance attended rally for clemency at the governor's office in Midtown Manhattan, imploring the governor to release more people who have proven their readiness to return to society, conducted monthly meetings on that with the governor. Let our people go. May 2021, the Second Chance Committee conducted a virtual educational forum on solitary confinement to the students against solitary confinement of the Cardozo School. We understand the importance of youth, and we will teach our youth. April 2021, the Second Chance Committee virtually participated in the Nan annual convention, as well as facilitated a criminal justice panel on race, crime, and punishment. And we go on. Second Chance is on the move. Second Chance is in the action. Second Chance is rallying us up for what we need to do to get into the action and get our people. January 2021, the Second Chance Committee participated in the HALT campaign virtual meeting. HALT solitary confinement. It is inhumane, and we must go and get our people. We are currently engaged in a Clean Slate campaign. What's the difference that you release me, but I cannot make a living? I cannot go to school. I cannot go to training. I cannot have housing. I'm now on the street. You release me so that you can bring me back. So the Second Chance Committee has a legislative criminal justice reform campaign that has legislation pending for the expungement and sealing of criminal records after a period of time has passed. The Treatment, Not Jails campaign is another legislative criminal justice reform campaign that will provide diversion from prisons and jails to alternative treatment for substance abuse and mental health treatment services. You heard the youth that came before me. Lastly, the New York for Full Voting Rights Registration, a campaign that is advocating for the passage of a bill that will restore the rights to vote of people incarcerated just in Maine, Vermont, Mexico, and Washington. We are making great strides. There is a national movement on empowerment and voting rights, and we must ensure that no one is left behind, especially our most marginalized population. Incarcerated lives matter too. The next meeting for the Second Chance Committee is February 12th at 6 p.m. and it is virtually. Contact VP1 Second Chance Committee at gmail.com. V as in Victor, VP1, Second Chance Committee @gmail.com, or call 646-229-9869, 646-229-9869. And you know you can always call us here at the National Action Network, 877-626-4651, for any concerns or any committees that you may want to join, or come on a Saturday morning and join in and get into action. God bless you.
All right, thank you, Sandra Mitchell. On behalf of the Second Chance Committee, once again, our guest artist for today, Bhavon Neal.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains binding me. I wish I could tell you how it feels to be free. I would say it loud and say it clear, so the whole world could hear. I wish I could share all the love in my heart and remove all the bars that keep tearing us apart. I wish I could know what it means to be free. Then you would hear me and agree that every man, woman, child should be free. I wish I could fly like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be to find out I could fly. I would soar to the sun and look down on the sea, and I'd sing because I know what it means to be free. I wish I knew how it felt to be free. I wish I could break all the chains binding me. I wish I could soar, fly up to the sun. Then you'd hear me and agree. Then you would see, yes, I would sing, because I know how it feels to be free.
That is Bhavon Neal sitting in for our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson. Right now, brothers and sisters, we are very pleased today to have with us for the Inspirational Word segment the Reverend Dr. Travis Boyd, Associate Pastor at Canaan Baptist Church, and he grew up right here in the National Action Network. Let's welcome him.
For truly this is the day that the Lord has made, and we ought to rejoice and be glad in it. I do give all honor and praise to God, who indeed is the head of my life, and to my pastor in his absence, the Reverend Dr. Thomas D. Johnson Sr., and to our leader, the people's leader, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. It is good to be here again with you all, and I'm glad that God is doing such a mighty move and a mighty thing in our lives. Last night we had the opportunity at Canaan to have a service called the Healing Experience, and Reverend Sharpton was able to leave words with us, and we thank God for him and all that he has done for not just the people in our community and this world, but for our church at Canaan. There is a word from the Lord this morning coming from the book of Genesis chapter 32, starting at the 25th verse and ending at the 26th verse. Genesis chapter 32, starting at the 25th verse. And it reads, "And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his hip, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint. And he wrestled with him. And he said to him, Let me go, for the day has breaketh. And Jacob said, I will not let you go, except you bless me." This morning I want to talk from the subject, the beauty of being broken. The beauty of being broken. Now, oftentimes in life, we as Christians or even laborers in the body of Christ find ourselves alone and no one to talk to. We find ourselves in hardships and hard places in life where we just don't even know where to go, who to call, what to look at. We don't know who will comfort us in our time of sorrow and even in our time of sadness. These hardships, such as relationships and work, hardships of health and hardships of war and police brutality, hardships of police being killed in our own community, hardships of a young man having to just go buy groceries for his grandmother and being shot as he's going to take her food, hardships in life where it seems like people are dying from drugs in our own community, but yet if we were to go downtown, people are not dying in their own communities the way they're dying up here. Where there are hardships in life, where there's black on black crime, schools are not teaching the way they were, and even more so, our public assistance is not assisting us anymore. These are hardships in life, and in essence, we are wondering whether we will ever get a breakthrough from these chaotic situations. Not only to come to the conclusion that there is beauty in being broken. Sometimes God blesses us with burdens that seem to be unexplainable and unquestionable. And we often complain about how heavy the burden is, but rather we should understand that sometimes when God puts a burden on us, it's not to harm us, but rather to set us up for an unexpected blessing. I don't know about you, but in the last 2 years, we've endured some hardship, because the Bible says, endure hardship as a good soldier. And I don't know about you, but I'm so glad to know that we were tested, we were tried, we were put in the fire as silver was tried, but we came out as gold. Can anyone testify that you've been to some places you didn't think you were going to come out of? You've had some hardships that you didn't think would sustain itself. You had some lows that you didn't think you were going to come up from, but it was nobody but God. Can anyone shout, it was nobody but God? We did not realize that being broken in our valleys does not mean that God does not love us any less. But being broken means that this is where God is shaping us and pruning us and repositioning us to be a better person and in a better place. This is the place where God gets us ready for our next level. Being broken only means that you are in between blessings. It doesn't mean that you ought to give up on life. It doesn't mean that we should throw in the towel, but rather being broken just means that it's a waiting period until God is about to bless us, until God is about to reposition us. But I've realized that being broken also means that when I'm in my valley, when I'm in my low experience, God is shifting and moving and rearranging things and turning things upside down and upside over. I don't know about you, but I like the fact that sometimes God has to put me on a trolley for maintenance. Sometimes God has to refix my engine. Sometimes God has to refix my steering wheel. Sometimes God has to put me back on a different track in order for me to see exactly where it is I should be. And I don't know about you, but I am excited, delighted, and even happy the fact that God broke me just to bless me. Is there anyone in the house this morning that realized that you were broken just for a blessing? You want to shout, open your mouth and tell God, thank you for breaking me in my broken season, because had I not been broken, had I not been stripped, had I not been torn down, had I not been stretched, I would not be who I am today. And I'm so glad to know that when God reveals the dangers of his wrath, and he redirects his wrath to show us the wonders of being broken. Being broken doesn't mean that the storm is over. Being broken doesn't mean that we can throw in the towel. But being broken just means that I'm waiting for an unexpected blessing from God. Yeah, we might have a snowstorm today. Yeah, the weather might not look good today. But the Bible says weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Is anyone expecting joy in the morning? Is anyone expecting healing in the morning? Is anyone expecting a breakthrough? You ought to shout, God, I'm expecting it. And so now here we find that Jacob sends his family over the Jabbok, the river, to go to his brother Esau. Can I set up the scene for us this morning? Jacob did wrong by his brother. Jacob was not nice to his brother, and he realized that his brother was about to overthrow and take over his empire, take over his territory. So Jacob sends his wives, and he sends his children, and he sends his cattle, and he sends his oxen, his mules across the river as a peace offering to his brother. But Jacob says, before I go tonight, I'm going to stay right here by the river. And so the Bible tells us that Jacob was visited by an angel, that they said that the angel was God, and that they said that Jacob wrestled with the angel all night long. He wrestled with him all night long until the breaking of day. And the Bible tells us that the angel says to him, let me go. But Jacob said, I cannot let you go until you bless me. And I don't know who I'm talking to this morning. You might be on TV land, radio land, or just on the land right now. But I've come to tell someone this morning that don't you let go of God in your broken season. Don't you let go of God in your hard season. Don't you let go of God in your low bar season. Because I've come to remind you that there's beauty in being broken. There's beauty in being hurt. There's beauty in being in pain. There's beauty in suffering. There's beauty in sadness. There's beauty in all kinds of things. Because when I think about the goodness of Jesus, I think about all that is done for me. I think about all the broken moments. I think about all the torn down moments. All I can say, you brought me through that. I know you'll bring me through this. You brought me through danger seen and unseen. I know you'll bring me through this. You brought me through hardship. I know you'll bring me through this. Can anyone out here tonight, this morning, testify and say, God brought me through this, and he'll bring me through that. But beloved, we realize, for we must understand why Jacob is now found by himself in an uncompromising position. In the pericope, we see how Jacob is broken down, and his character is broken down. I don't know about you, but J.G. McCann would tell me oftentimes, he would say, Travis, he said, make sure that your character is in good contact. I said, well, Dr. McCann, what do you mean? He says, Travis, your gift will make room for you. He said, your gift will take you places. He said, your gift will show you before great men. He said, but your character is going to keep you there. And I've just come to let someone know that don't you lose your character in your broken season. Don't you lose who you are in your broken season. You stand firm in who God has called you to be. You stand firm and still look good when you don't have no money in your pocket. You still look good when you have no food to feed your family. Because there's beauty in being broken. Because sometimes you don't have to look like what you're going through. And even while you're going through, even while you're hurt, even while you're in pain, God will send an unexpected blessing, just to show you that he's God, and he's God all by himself. But first, beloved, we must understand that God sends isolation as a moment of challenge and guidance. In verse 24, Jacob says, and Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him all to the breaking of day. Secondly, beloved, we must understand that sometimes God has to rearrange and move some things out of place just to get our attention. Sometimes our brokenness does not mean we're going to get a blessing, but sometimes our brokenness means that God just wants our attention. Sometimes God breaks us. He breaks us all the way down so that we can get on our knees and pray. And he says, if you seek my face, turn from your wicked ways, then you'll hear from heaven, and I'll heal the land. Is there anyone here that can testify that God has been good to you even when he broke you? God's been good to you even when it seemed like there was no way out of nowhere. God's been good to you even when it seems like you had nothing else and you was at your lowest. But lastly, beloved, as I take my seat and I get ready to start the car, God can bring you from a broken place to a place of deliverance. For it's right here in verse 26, he says, then he said, let me go, for the day has broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go until you bless me. But then verse 27 says, and he said unto him, what is your name? He said, my name is Jacob. The angel said to him, no longer after today will your name be Jacob, but your name will be Israel. Can I tell you what Israel means? Israel means to be free. Israel means to be delivered. Israel means to be set apart. Israel means that I made it out of one place and I made it to the glory. You ought to just be excited and shout that my name is Israel. My name means free. God, that means that God frees me from the hand of the enemy. That means that God delivers me out of the hand of the naysayers. That means that God shuts the mouth of the enemy, because I realize that when hardship comes and hardship breaks me, I can look up into the hills from which cometh my help, knowing that all my help comes from the Lord who makes heaven and earth. So beloved, as I take my seat, as I sit down, I realize that there's beauty in being broken.
Reverend Dr. Travis Boyd, Associate Pastor, Canaan Baptist Church. Right now, the Change Ensemble.
My
under the direction and accompanied by our guest artist today, Bhavon Neal. Right now, brothers and sisters, if you are here in the auditorium, I want you to get on your feet. If you're at home, I want you to get on your feet and put your hands together for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. 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 Fist bump the person next to you, tell him you love them. Never give up and never give in. The change will come. Keep faith down within. Troubles and triumphs won't last always. God on our side, nothing but brighter days. My sister, hold on, be strong. A better day is coming and it won't take too long. Yes, change will come. Change will come. Change will come. Starting with you. Your change will come. Your change will come. Starting with you. Your change will come. Your change will come. Never give up and never give in. Your change will come. Keep faith out within. Troubles and trials won't last always. With God on our side, nothing but brighter days. My sister, hold on, be strong. A better day is coming and it won't take too long. Yes, change will come. Change will come. Change will come. Your change will come. Your change is gonna come. Your change will come. Your change is gonna come. Change will come. Change will come. Change will come. Starting with you. Your change will come. Your change will come. National Action Network Change Ensemble. Give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. We are happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally. For you that are here live at the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street in the village of Harlem. And for you that are listening live on WLIB 1190 AM in New York, and for you that are joining us now live Impact Television all over the nation and the world, we are happy to be with you another Saturday morning to give our report where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. And we're glad to have our brother and noted musician, award-winning artist, Bhavon Neal, doing our music this morning. And certainly all of you that have come in this blizzard, with the snow going, and for those that were able to get through the storm. For you that are watching around the country, it is probably already about 8 foot of snow in New York, but even worse is the winds. So people that made it through did it because they were determined to do so, and I give them credit. Give yourselves a hand. And clearly I want to give also a real hand to our inspirational speaker this morning, who stepped in. Reverend Travis Broyd, who stepped in even though he had to speak this morning. But our scheduled inspirational speaker for the first hour got snowed in or snowed out. I don't know which one. And on a moment's notice, Travis, who's a member here and one of the ministers, associate ministers at Canaan Baptist Church, came and did the message, not knowing he had to speak. You know you good when you can speak and not know you could speak. And he did a great job. Many of you here at the House of Justice know Travis' story, but many of you watching on Impact Television may not know Travis. When he talks about being broken and God blessing you sometime by breaking you, his mother was one of those that was taken from us, killed during the 9/11 attack. And I will never forget that when the towers were struck on 9/11, and Travis' mother worked in one of the towers. He stayed with us several weeks, waiting, every time the phone rang, waiting for the call that his mother was found, that his mother's all right, and the call never came. And he put his life back together again and committed himself to be the son that she would have wanted him to be. And went on to seminary and became a minister, and has made us proud from the rubble and broken stones around the World Trade Center that took his mother. He's put his life back together and is a proud minister and leader in our community. Give Reverend Travis Broyd a hand. That's right, give him a big hand. Many of us go through tragedies and use those tragedies to be an excuse to never try again, saying that life ain't fair. Well, it's not fair. But the question is, are you going to be fair to yourself? If you wait on the world to be fair, I can tell you now, you can check out now. Question is how fair you going to be to yourself. And I think that there are those, you may not have a tragedy in the same way that Travis did, but all of us going to face something. And it's not what you face, it's how you face it. And how you react to what you face. And I can tell you as someone, one of the greatest joys in life. I say, I do morning thoughts on Instagram every morning. One of my greatest joys is when people break you. Because people will break you. People will hurt your feelings. People will crush you. People will betray you. People will mislead you. But one of the greatest thrills is when people break you. And God takes you in front of the people that broke you and put you back together again. There's not a better thrill in life. And I wanted to say that about it. Let me say that we join again the city of New York and the mayor and the police commissioner in honoring the lives of the two fallen police officers. And I was very proud last Saturday that as the Saturday morning rally ended here, that our Huddle Youth Department led a prayer vigil in front of the hospital. And some of you went that were even the older ones. I was listening on the broadcast this morning, Sister Nickens from Huddle's wedding. Give her a hand. Did she speak well? She made a great statement. And they went in front of the hospital, and that officer also died. They had his funeral on yesterday. But I also am glad they prayed for the mother of the man that was accused, that did the killing. And we don't condone anybody being killed. We certainly stand with the police and the mayor. But also this mother whose son apparently has some mental issues or something, and how she is broken. All that are involved in this. And the danger of police and the danger from what happens by improper policing. One of the reasons I like what young Sister Nickens said this morning is we need to have an involvement on all sides of this. Because even as I condemn the shooting of police, and always did, I remember when they killed a policeman a couple of years ago, and we went out there, helped give money to the family, and the police union said, we don't want Nan involved. We said, we involved anyway. Because we're not anti-police, and we don't need the police union to stand there. But we need that dialogue on both sides. Because as we deal nationally, at the same time we're mourning policemen here in New York, and a deputy was killed in Houston. We have 3 police on trial for federal charges of violating George Floyd's rights, civil rights in Minneapolis. So we got to deal with both sides of this policing question. And we cannot be afraid and lack the courage to come to the table and deal with all of that. And that's why when I hear a young lady like young Sister Nickens on the air this morning from our huddle department saying that you need to talk to some of the young people and you need to bring them to the table. President's supposed to be coming to New York to deal with guns this week. Well, they need to deal with some of the young people. And they need to deal with showing that they are listening and not only speaking to them, but listening to them. Even if you don't agree with what you're going to hear, you need to hear it. That's why the beauty of what they do here on Monday nights with Huddle, and now different chapters of National Action Network is doing it around the country, is you don't just need youth rallies where old folk get up and talk to young folk. Some of these youth rallies are hoaxes. They just put the youth in the audience and the old folk get up there and lecture. That ain't a youth rally. Huddle is where they sit around and let the youth talk. And give reports and all. We need to hear them even if you don't agree. Most of the time you don't even know what you're disagreeing with because you're not listening to them. Well, these young folk today, what are you, if you ain't shutting up listening, you don't know, and it go the other way too. A lot of the young folk talking about with these old school, you need to shut up and listen to what the old folks saying before you disagree. Everybody ain't wrong. So I wanted to give her that credit. I also want to say, this I'll put it this way. In the discussion, I was listening as Sandra was giving Victor Pate's report. And in this discussion, everybody that is saying that they want to see a fair criminal justice system that does not overcharge people are not being weak on crime. They are saying that you can't overkill and then have room for those criminals that ought to be the ones on the court logs and in jail, because you have clogged up the system with things that does not merit that level. Don't distort what is being said, and don't fall for that. This man that killed the 2 cops is not a petty crime. Nobody can say that he'd have been let go. Shooting anybody is not a petty crime. So don't confuse the issue and distort this. This man had a gun with additional 40 rounds. On any level, that's not petty. And if you had gun control, and if you were dealing with the mass distribution and proliferation of guns, that would address the issue. It's funny to me that they want to talk about everything when we see our policemen killed, but gun control. Talk about how did he get the gun, and where are the gun traffickers and the gun manufacturers? Something real strange to me about how the gun manufacturers, the gun distribution is not in this discussion. Man, why does anybody need 40 rounds? And don't try to make this look like the hostility of the black community toward police. If the black community was hostile, the mother wouldn't have called the police. This wasn't a political statement. She called the police on a domestic dispute. If she was anti-police, she wouldn't have called the police. But everybody's trying to exploit this rather than our dealing at the table in a sensible, sane way to bring the community together. At the same time, as I said this week, I was on Morning Joe and we had Mayor Eric Adams on, and I said to him, we need to have a series of discussions on what this bringing back street crime unit is. Because I have serious concerns about a street crime unit based on how they were and how they operated in the past. That ain't no new position. From Amadou Diallo in 1999, where this organization was the central organization on that fight. I went to Africa and did Amadou's funeral, and that was 23 years ago. So this is not no new position for this organization or me. And we are going to continue to say, now yes, there needs to be some policing. We're going to work with the mayor, but we want it clear what it is and what it is not, where are the guardrails, where are the laws, and how they're going to be enforced. We do not want to go back to stop and frisk. We do not want to go back to violating people's civil rights. And the mayor said, he said, no, I agree with you. He said, I testified against it. Fine, that's why we need a broad conversation on this. I don't change what I say. We've been here a long, in fact, when Nash Action Network started 30 years ago, we started in the middle of fighting the racial killing of Yusef Hawkins. We started in a fight. And on and on and on. It amazes me how people that just got woke gonna lecture folk that have been woke a long time and been waking everybody else up. I want to hold people accountable. We will hold you accountable. Where you been? How you gonna be the last one in the class and want to tell the teacher to sit down? Hello. Now, the other part of this, we saw this week the retirement announcement of Judge Breyer. And it opened up a seat on the Supreme Court. The president said that he was going to put a black woman in that seat on the court. One of the things that I was telling some of the staff down at the corporate office, one of the things that I was telling Reverend Stephen Marshall, give him a hand, he got all his got on his wool cap. Y'all might not know who he was with his wool cap and his mask. So y'all didn't see his dreads this morning. Y'all might have thought that was a stranger sitting over there next to Katrina. Or she got a new boyfriend or something, but that's Reverend Marshall. She said, speak it into existence, touch and agree. Well, don't touch him, his wife is watching. It's too cold and too much snow for him to have to sleep outside tonight. Watch that touching and agreeing. Let me give you a little history. I was going over with Reverend Marshall at the corporate office yesterday. In the 2020 election, there was a debate in South Carolina of the Democratic candidates that was seeking the Democratic nomination for president. Joe Biden and the others were debating that night. I was sitting there on the front row. As many of you know, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee at that time, Tom Perez, had invited me to go to all the debates with him. I was his seatmate. So I'm sitting there, and during one of the breaks, Congressman Jim Clyburn got up and went in the back where the candidates were, getting, a 5-minute break, and said, I told you, since he was talking to Joe Biden, he said, I told you that if you are committing to put a black woman on the court, if you are elected, you ought to say it the night you haven't said it, and walk back out and got an audience. Clyburn was sitting about 2 or 3 rows behind us. Biden had already told him privately that he would put a black woman on the court if a vacancy became available. It was Clyburn that went in the back and said, you need to say it publicly tonight in the debate on national television. That is when Joe Biden came out after the break. During the debate, he's debating Liz Warren and Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg and all of the candidates. And he announced that night in South Carolina that if he won the nomination and then went on and won the election, that he would, if their vacancy become available, put the first black woman on the court. Now, everybody clapped. Congressman Clyburn exhaled, he was happy. None of us knew, sitting in the audience, what had happened with Clyburn and Biden. The next morning, after the debate, in Charleston, South Carolina, National Action Network's Religious Affairs Department, under Reverend Nelson Rivers, had a minister's breakfast in Charleston at one of the churches. And we had all the candidates come, and I was hosting it because I was there for the debate, and we had Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders and everybody come. When Biden came in with Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn said to me, coming on the stage, sitting with us, said to me that he is going to endorse, he being Clyburn, is going to endorse Joe Biden later that morning. And that's when I knew what was getting ready to happen that day. And he also had Joe Biden repeat that he would put a black woman in the Supreme Court if, in fact, a vacancy became available, if he won the nomination, and if he was elected president. I'm giving you that history because a lot of people do not understand the importance and the significance of when we have these forums and these debates and things going on. People be talking about, oh, they got all these people up in Nan, or what that mean, why we have at our conventions, all that. Because if you do not make them say things in public, you have nothing to hold them accountable to. So I give you that background history so you will understand that when Breyer announced his retirement this week, the first thing I did was tweet out that Biden, you promised that you would put a black woman in that seat. If it hadn't been for the debate that night and Clyburn saying that and then making him come again the next morning to Nan, we couldn't have held him accountable. Because it would have been something that was not publicly said. That's why you have a National Action Network. And that's why we have forums. People talk about, oh, Sharpton and them just power playing. The only way you're going to get power is you got to know how to deal with people in power and make them come out publicly. That's why Martin Luther King Day, we had everybody, both U.S. senators, everybody come across here. Everything they say, we videotape because we're going to make sure that we hold them accountable. Hello? This ain't no showboating. Our national convention. We're going to have April 6th to the 9th. Y'all write these dates down now. April 6th and 9th. We're going back into Sheridan. Since the COVID has gone down, we're going back in. We're going to have all of the national figures there. In the last national convention we had in 2020, couldn't have one last year in person, though we had chapter leaders and all. We had all 16 announced Democratic candidates at the convention, and I asked every one of them on the record in public with national TV cameras, would they support reparations? Did I not? None, all of these run around with their fists up could not make them commit to reparations. We did that. In fact, the only one that would not commit was Bernie Sanders. Said, well, no, I'll go with the 10-10-10 plan. Hello. Now, as we look through the selection, we had a conference call this week of the leaders of national civil rights groups, the 8 of us that work together. And one of the things that we are saying is that we want to make sure that as this process of vetting who he puts on there is not just any black woman, but a black woman that is not only qualified, but that is fair in terms of civil liberties and civil justice in their background. Because don't forget, George Bush gave us a black on the court named Clarence Thomas, who has voted against everything that black folk and women and LGBTQ and everything he could. We do not need Clarence Thomas with a dress on to be put on that court. Let's be real clear about that. Clarence Thomas was the only one voted the other day against the whole court with something. He goes against it. Now, the reason why we must stay active is that the putting a black woman on the court is a commitment and is historic, but it will not change the balance of the court. The court is, that's why we continue to fight for voting rights. The court is, at this point, 6-3 conservative. Is that right? Breyer was one of the 3 liberals. To replace Breyer does not alter the 6-3. And sometimes the Chief Justice will swing so 5-4 at best, but normally 6-3. Which means that we've got to keep fighting to put pressure and change the legislative branch Because Supreme Court is going to continue to be a problem until you can change either the amount of justices or the makeup of the 9 that's on there. In this calendar year, I'm taking my time to break it down this morning because I know a lot of y'all listening on radio or TV is snowed in and y'all got to hear me this morning, so I'm not rushing. And I'll be on Politics Nation tonight at 5 o'clock. Y'all stay on. Y'all can't go nowhere, so watch me tonight, MSNBC, at 5 o'clock. And then when I go off, then take out my book, Righteous Troublemaker, and read all night. Y'all can't go nowhere. Righteous Troublemaker. You can download it right at home, snowed in, on Amazon or alshoptherbooks.com and read and go into bed and hope tomorrow that you can get outside the house. I got your whole night scheduled for you. Politics Nation, and then read Righteous Troublemaker. If you don't feel like reading, you can buy an audiobook on Amazon. This was a commercial, Donald. And you in Queens, I'll be preaching tomorrow morning at the 9 o'clock service at Allen AME Cathedral. Rev. Mr. Blizzard, you think you'll get there? I got here, I'll be at Allen tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Now, let me get back to where I was. The issue of voting becomes even more imperative because on this calendar, this Supreme Court calendar, they're going to decide on affirmative action. There are 2 cases that this court just agreed to hear. The University of North Carolina and Harvard University. Is that right, Attorney Hardy? Those cases are where they are now trying to say that race should not even be a factor in consideration for admission. What does that mean? That means that when you have a certain criteria for admissions, they ask and check certain things in the background of the prospective student. They're saying you should no longer even entertain whether race is a factor. If they take race out as a consideration, it will automatically mean you no longer know the diversity in colleges. And it will set a standard that it will go into the private sector and every other part of the American life, because they will say if it is against the Constitution or against the Supreme Court ruling to have race as a factor in admissions to school, then we can't have race as a factor in hiring or in contracts or in anything else. They will take race out of consideration across the board, which means many of you that are working now in jobs because they have to have diversity can be fired. You can't come in and say you don't have enough diversity because there will be no racial data because race is no longer a factor. This court is going to decide that this calendar year. Roe versus Wade, women's right to choose on the calendar this year. All of you super duper militant revolutionaries that said voting don't matter. And we got Donald Trump. And Donald Trump put 3 right-wing conservatives on that court. That's why you sit down, whether you intended to or not, stack the court against affirmative action, against women's right to choose, and gays. Because y'all talk about Trump ain't no different than everybody else. Well, when them court decisions hit your behind, done by Trump. Now, I didn't agree with everything Hillary Clinton stood for, but she would not have put them right-wingers on that bench. Hello. There is a difference. And politics is about choices. And sometimes you might not have the best choice, but it is a better choice. That's why we got to preserve the right to vote. Well, I don't vote because I don't like nobody out there. Well, let me tell you something. You should grow up in my house. My mother didn't cook every night everything we liked. So she said, you gonna eat or you gonna starve? Well, I was a fried chicken addict. I'd eat fried chicken 5 times a week. It was left up to me. And she said, chicken is Thursday night. You gonna eat meatloaf tonight. You gonna eat something else and fish on Friday. Well, I don't like fish. Well, you gonna be fishy on Friday in here. And you may not like in love with the candidate, but you cannot afford for somebody that is against your rights to get in office, because that's what Donald Trump did to us. So that is why we'll be in Selma. Every year, we go to Selma to commemorate the march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where John Lewis and Amelia Boykin and Jose Williams and 100 people were brutalized. I write about it in Righteous Troublemakers. And we go down every year. I'm going to be preaching at Brown Chapel this year. And we're going to march across the bridge in commemoration of that. And we will mobilize. I had a call last night, Martin Luther King III and Andrea, his wife. We're going to be announcing some major stuff down there on March 6th, first Sunday in March, commemorating the Selma March. It'll be the first year that John Lewis will not be there alive. Year before last, when we got to the bridge, last year we got to the bridge, and John Lewis was sick with cancer, couldn't be there. A car pulled up, and he got out the car. And you've seen the pictures of all of us holding him up. He won't be there this year, but the march will go on. We're going to stand up for what John Lewis and others fought and got us. Now, Mal, we just were defeated and couldn't get the John Lewis bill through Congress. Yes. But listen to what they said. They didn't have the votes to go past the filibuster, to pass the John Lewis Voting Act. They didn't have the votes to pass the Freedom to Vote Act. So they're going back to Build Back Better. They didn't have the votes for Build Back Better. So they said, well, we'll break Build Back Better down and go piece by piece and get it through. I said, well, that's a good idea. So now we're going to break down voting rights and get it piece by piece. I don't care how we get it. We cannot afford to live in a nation where our people are undercut in deciding who is going to be in power. And that's what strategy we're going to lay out on March 6th. We have got to preserve that right, as well as we're going to litigate in all these states. You've got 19 states that has already changed laws on voting restrictions. We got to deal with all of that. We must not ever stop fighting. We must never, ever give up. You may lose a round in a fight, but you don't give up the fight. And we lost the round with not being able to get voting rights through. But we cannot give up that fight. Let me tell you, when I was looking at the bios of the 5 or 6 finalists, or they saying finalists, we don't know who they are, but they project 5 or 6 of the finalists for being nominated for the Supreme Court, the black women. Every one of them went to this college, went to this law school, worked at this place. None of that would have happened without a civil rights movement. None of that. This one was a graduate of this university. This one went to this law school. All of that was in the last half century because people that could not go to those schools marched, went to jail, and paid a price that opened the door for them to go to them schools and to be qualified now to sit on the Supreme Court. Don't act like any of this was automatic. We sit up and forget our history. Nobody opened doors for us. We opened the doors for ourselves. And the worst thing in the world is for people that open doors for you. And you open the door and act like you're ashamed of the people that open the door for you. That's why I keep getting on some of our young actors, even in name. Don't condemn your elders that made you have a life they didn't have. Well, you know, they don't speak well. They talk well enough to get your butt in school. They don't understand certain things. The reason you understand it is you had the opportunity to be educated and have those discussions. I don't care what they don't have. What our people didn't have, they were denied by law. They were not uneducated because they were lazy. It was against the law for them to go to them schools. Even in slavery, it's against the law for blacks to read and write. And if a white was caught teaching a slave how to read, they could be lynched themselves. It is part of any system of oppression to make those that are oppressing ignorant. Because if you can't learn, you can't liberate. If you can't learn, you can't liberate. Because you don't even know that status that you're in unless you're enlightened mentally. Ain't no accident that they did not want the schools to be available to us. Because the more you learn, the less you can be enslaved. The more you learn, the less you can be exploited. They've got to control you by controlling your mind. And that's why when we began building our own institutions, one of the first things we did was use those institutions to also build places of education. That's why I tell a lot of our ministers, the black church was not just where we went on Sunday. It was where we built black colleges and where we built black banks and where we built black political power. Now we've reduced the black church to just a service rather than being of service. The black church was a social institution. I told y'all last week, I learned, people talk about Revs on MSNBC competing with folk that went to school for journalism. I grew up learning how to speak in the Church of God in Christ in the Baptist church, which gave me the ability that I could match anybody who went to Ivy League school. The function of our churches have been distorted. That's why the last place that we saw Jesus in church was Jesus said, "You've turned my Father's house from a house of prayer to a den of thieves." A lot of y'all have turned this into a hustle rather than have it where it educates and uplifts people. We have a legacy of faith. Legacy of believing what you can't see. But you know that God will make a way somehow. Well, what do you mean, Sharpton? Did you ever think about this? They had in slavery time an underground railroad. Y'all read about it? Seen the documentaries on it. Now, let me tell you the faith part of that a lot of us miss. If we got on the Underground Railroad and you did not know where you were going, isn't that faith that you got on to go somewhere and you didn't know where it was going? It took faith to leave the plantation, hide out, and then go and get on a railroad that by faith you hope you arrived somewhere to safety and someone was on the other side. Every trip Harriet Tubman took, she took it with the faith that they wouldn't get caught and the faith that when they got where they were going, somebody would be there. That's why I keep fighting on voting rights and keep fighting on these other issues, because I got Harriet Tubman kind of faith. If some of y'all got Elijah kind of faith, that's good. Elijah kind of faith, I got Harriet Tubman kind of faith. I got the kind of faith that say I'm going to leave the plantation. I hope the train get there. And I hope the train get me to where I got to go. But I got no guarantees. But I don't need guarantees to have faith. My faith makes me step out and know that God will make a way. Faith. Let me tell you why I lived long enough to see certain things come into being. Let me tell you this, I'll let you go. One of the things that I said, only being old enough will make you understand this. In the late 80s, when they nominated Clarence Thomas to the Supreme Court, was that, what year was that, 88? In the late 80s. The thing that came up in the hearings was that Clarence Thomas was accused of being improper at EEOC. And a black woman named Anita Hill came forward and testified against Clarence Thomas. Some of y'all remember that. Others of y'all studied that. But let me show you how God works. She testified, am I right, Hardy, in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And they went after her. And they tried to discredit her. The chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate that led the high interrogation of Anita Hill was the senator from Delaware named Joe Biden. One of the things that Joe Biden had to deal with and apologize for when he was running is how he treated Anita Hill. But the way God works is the same Joe Biden that had these hard questions for a black woman named Anita Hill is the same Joe Biden that's going to put a black woman on the Supreme Court. If you hold out just a little while longer, he said, I'll make your enemies your footstool. Anita Hill need to be there to see that black woman appointed by Joe Biden. Weeping may endure for a night, but if you hold out, if you keep on marching, if you keep on believing, if you keep on praying, joy is coming in the morning. Faith is not foolishness. Faith is knowing that if I hold a little while, God will make a way somehow. Faith, we come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in his holy word. He never failed us yet. Faith, faith, faith. Hold on to your faith. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Singing like you mean it. Singing like you mean it. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. I'm gonna open the doors of the movement, and maybe someone out that come even through all this snow and not a member of National Action Network. If you are here in the auditorium and have not joined, there's not a better day to join. But all of you watching by television and listening by radio, you can join right now by calling in our toll-free number, 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651, or you can go online to www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Don't forget that we are open for you to have membership. Let me say again that today at 5 we'll be live on MSNBC, my Politics Nation show. But I want everybody listening, everybody watching, to get a copy of my book, Righteous Troublemakers. Lady texted me this week, says she never knew that there was a woman arrested before Rosa Parks for sitting on the front of the bus in Montgomery, and that they would not rally around her because she was dark-skinned and pregnant and unmarried. I write her story, Claudette Coleman. I write the story of attorney Pauline Murray, who wrote many of the legal arguments that Thurgood Marshall used in Brown versus Board of Education. That was the Supreme Court decision that ended segregation of schools. They would not give Pauline credit because she was a woman and gay. I write about a lot of troublemakers that were righteous. Righteous folk fight and know they ain't gonna get credit. Righteous folk fight and say, my name may not be on the newspaper, but I'm gonna be at the rally. Righteous people say, I'm not gonna be on TV tonight, but I'm going anyhow because it's right. Well, I want to give them some of the profile and some of the limelight because they were righteous troublemakers. Everybody listening to me should get a copy of the book. I want y'all to be also, as we get ready to go off radio, put down March 6th, Selma, Alabama. We're going to cross that bridge. It is still a disgrace to me that they still have that bridge named after Edmund Pettus, who was a grand dragon in the KKK. They need to change that name to the John Lewis Bridge. That's one of the things I'm going to talk about this year. And then April 6th through the 9th, get ready now for the National Action Network Convention here in New York. You can go online and start signing up now at www.nationalactionnetwork.net. It's time for us to keep the movement going. As I think about many of our warriors going on. Last Friday, I preached the funeral of Attorney Colin Moore. In the last year, we've lost the whole host that used to host Open Line on KISS Radio. James Ntume gone. Judge Pickett gone. Bob Slade. And they all served us well, fought a good fight. But now we need some of y'all to fill in those slots because armies just replace soldiers. You don't just mourn. You say, well, I got to step up now. and do what I got to do. And as we see others move on, that's opening up a spot for you to do your work. You sitting around talking about, I want my chance. Why don't they let young folk do so? Well, there's plenty of room now for you to do something other than grumbling and mumbling. They got room for you now. You need to be a part of something rather than sit around criticizing everything. Join something. That's how many of us got there. I became a member of Operation Breadbasket when I was 12. They made me youth director when I was 13. There's never been a time in my life I wasn't a member of something. So when I joined, I went to work. And your work makes room for you. You ain't got to tell nobody that you a leader. People will see the leadership in you. But you got to be a part of something. Some people just want to be outside complaining and finding fault, because the real fault you got is in you. You're really uncomfortable with yourself, so you got to reflect that on everybody else. Well, they got some scheme going, because you scheming. So you see a scheme in everybody else. You think like a schemer. You think schemer because you scheming. So you try to put everybody else in that. Hello. I think one of the things I'm going to get is a mirror. Just walk around, let folk, when they be talking about everybody else, I'm putting the mirror up. Because you talk about yourself. We've got to stop beating down each other while everybody else is getting together against us. I had a friend who used to say that the biggest problem that black folks have is that the one thing that some whites and some blacks have in common is both of them beat down black folks. Every leader ain't nothing. Everybody out there ain't right. Nobody do nothing. Well, what do you do? But critique everybody else. Why don't you get in these groups and correct them? Why don't you get in there and argue your point, and maybe you can turn them around? But sitting around attacking everybody doesn't do anything but help those that are enemies to all of us. You ain't doing nothing but helping Trump. And some of y'all might be doing that intentionally. I saw them blacks standing behind Trump last week, Blacks for Trump. Hello. All right, let us raise our offering. I know many of us couldn't get through the snow, but I know the few that came through the snow didn't come here broke. I appreciate everybody that came. I need everybody to give to the best of their ability. I need about 10 people, about 10, that can give $100 or more to come first. 10 people, if I get 10, even with Winston Gilchrist, $100, Guardians, $100. Arthur don't move, it's gonna cost you $100. Milton Mills, $100. He came in late, but you come at the time you want with $100. He came in here to help the movement. Isn't that wonderful? Reverend Mulgore Kennedy, I saw you was in some panel this week. All right, I saw it. I'm watching you on social media. $100. Thank you, Reverend Kennedy. All right. 50s. Who can do 50? 50. Thank you, Brother Mills. God bless you. Welcome committee, $50. Sandra Mitchell, $50. Gave a great report this morning. $60. Don't play her cheap. I appreciate it. I'll be in the back listening, and she gave Victor's report very well. And it's important that people listening, you probably got more people listening today because of the weather, that they understand different things going on in the network. That's why Minister Carolyn Payne, $50. That's why I wanted to say what Sandra did and what young Sister Nickens did is important. Because a lot of folk snowed in is listening that may not listen every Saturday. Wow. Travis Boyd, $50. All right, 20. Travis went and got Esau Jacob, didn't he, this morning? He really did that one well. All right, now everybody, whatever you have, $1, $5, $10, whatever you have. Everybody. All right. All right, thank you. Let's get ready to dismiss. People got to get back through this weather. We don't have new members. I think we got some online, but none here. And let us stand. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now. Repeat after me, we're an African people. Robbed of our names, our language, our culture, our families, our self-respect. But we shall rise, never to fall again. Up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. No justice, no peace, no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace. Fist bump with the one you next to, fist bump with me before you leave.